All right, so hello and welcome to Math 134, which is Calculus 1 in the summer 2019 session. My name is Mike Deal, and I'll be your professor for this course. And in this video, I'm mostly just going to go through kind of an orientation to where everything is here in Canvas and the syllabus and kind of all that usual getting started kinds of questions. And so after watching this, I think you should probably be good to begin the course. And yeah, so I guess the first thing I'll just go over is, or just walk you through, is the syllabus. So that's right here on our Canvas page, the second link. So if you click on that and open it up, I think you get something like this. So this, like as I mentioned, the course is fully online. So there is no, obviously, no in-class component, and it's also for the most part pretty much autonomous. Meaning you can, for the most part, complete the work whenever you want. There are due dates for things, but there is no like time where you have to be online or Skyping or chatting with me or with other people in the class. So you can like more or less do the things whenever you want, just so long as they're due on time. So, but anyway, so fully online. It's a 4-credit course. And our dates for the course are July 8th through the last week in August, I guess I'll say more roughly. I'll give you more details about the ending when we go back over to Canvas. But so my information is there. I think I know some of you from classes from this past year or years. But I teach math and computer science in the math department or computer science department at Endicott and in the summer, and I usually teach a couple of courses in this format. So I do have an office, but I'm not in the summer, so probably don't try to find me, and also don't try to call me. But if you do need me, just feel free to send me an email, or you can send me a Canvas message. That's fine too. That goes right to email. So if you need anything, there's my email address for you. The course itself is a fairly standard Calculus 1 course. And if you've taken some calculus in the past, or if people taking Calc 1 pretty much at any school are probably more or less going to do the activities and the content that we're going to be covering here this semester. So here's the description at least. But calculus, as you may know, is probably a good way to describe it is that it's the math that's behind, well, many things in engineering or physics. And indeed, we'll sort of touch on some of those things as we go through the semester. But anyway, so here's a list of the topical of the course description. In terms of prerequisite information for the course, obviously, the course follows pre-calculus, which probably most of you took in high school or took the Endicott version of it, which is Math 129. Which we call analysis of functions. But basically, it's the expectation is that you are familiar with certainly with algebra, which is a really important piece of the course. So hopefully, hopefully it's not been too terribly long since you've had algebra. Or at least you have a decent memory about it. Trigonometry is also important. We'll do a little bit of a review of some of these things, but again, there'll be an expectation that you have some knowledge of what sine and cosine and all of those characters are. And beyond that, just general numerical know-how and hopefully good critical thinking skills. So like I said, if you've taken a pre-calculus wherever you have in whatever format or however long ago it was, I'm sure they covered enough information, in terms of what you need in order to do this course. Now, if it's been a while, or if you didn't really didn't learn a whole lot, but got through it somehow, you are going to need to probably brush up. There is a little bit, as I've alluded to, the first week the lecture videos and everything are pre-calculus reviews, so I will review some things. But please feel free to use the internet. I'm pretty sure that if you have forgotten something from algebra, and you type it into YouTube or Google it or something like that, you'll see lots of information and people trying to help you remember how to factor, or what's the quadratic formula, or when do you use a quadratic formula, and all these things. So, use the internet. You should hopefully get pretty good answers to those kinds of questions. So anyway, here's a topical outline in terms of what we're going to be covering, and roughly speaking, the sort of first half, or the first two main topics, are leading up to the midterm exam, and then the third and fourth topics are leading up to the final exam, which is somewhat cumulative. I mean, the course itself is cumulative, so we're going to be using the stuff that we learn here to do pretty much everything in the second half. So it's not really, it wouldn't be possible to make a final exam that wasn't cumulative. So anyway, but I'll get to those in a minute. I shouldn't go so quickly, I guess. There's certainly an expectation that you're spending a decent amount of time. This is a roughly 7 or 8 week semester. And so, I generally tell people at least 10 hours a week, and in busier weeks, 20 hours a week. You have to sort of remember that you're not going to class in the same way that you would if it was an in-person class. That's you're going to be watching lecture videos, which is sort of the same as going to class, but somehow it feels more, sometimes it feels a little more time-consuming when you're sitting in your room watching 3 hours of lecture videos rather than actually just going to class for 3 hours. But in any case, in terms of your budgeting of time, these aren't exact totals by any means over here, but you should, again, feel, I would say, at least 10 hours a week will be needed. And again, in some weeks, in busy weeks, it's probably more like 20. And I guess if you're stuck or having to do a lot of background things or having questions, perhaps more than 20. So just sort of keep that in mind as we're going through the course, that you do want to carve out a significant amount of time. I think the biggest, if you've never taken an online course before, especially in this format, the biggest, I think, issue that people have is, if something is due on a certain day, a Sunday night at 11 p.m., and you start it Sunday at noon, you might be like, okay, well, I have 11 hours, but, just like class, you may have questions, you're not going to get everything the first time, and you may need more than 11 hours. So I say this just to put it out there that you do want to ideally work maybe an hour or two a day, would really actually probably be the best way to tackle this. That way you're not overwhelmed sitting at a desk trying to do this for 10 straight hours. And it also gives you a chance to kind of let things digest and rewatch videos and get some help if you need it. So my advice would be to, if you can, try to carve out an hour or two a day, and then I think you should be just fine for the most part. So anyway, the format of the class is that there are lecture videos over in Canvas, which I'll maybe click over and show you. On our Canvas page here, let me just go to sort of week 2 here. You'll typically see, you'll certainly see a link to video lectures and homework problems. And when you see that in every week, right, video lectures, homework problems, and so on. When you click on those guys, you'll get a link, our page here in Canvas, that has videos. And these are just YouTube videos, as you can probably tell. Sometimes there's probably at least one, or at least 2, I should say, each week. Let's see, this week there looks like there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so 4 examples. I don't know why sometimes they show full screen and sometimes they don't, but whatever. So there'd be 4 videos for you to watch this week. And of course, just like any other YouTube video, you can hit play and watch them right here if you want. You can full screen, or you could watch them in YouTube. Some people like to turn the captioning on just because it's helpful. And these videos, I won't unmute it, but these videos are just me talking to you sort of like this. And either I've got blank slides, like probably this in this case, and I'm just drawing for you on blank slides. Or in other cases, this probably isn't a good example of a video. In other videos, I might have some things prepared on a slide, and then I'm just sort of filling in details. So it's pretty similar to being in class, I think, just sort of without us actually seeing each other face to face. So my advice to you is when you're watching these videos is to pretend you are in class and take notes, just the same as you would an in-person course. And especially in math course, you really have to take notes. Otherwise, they don't think you learn very well just sort of watching me, in this case, do problems for you. It's really not actually all that helpful. What's, I think, much more helpful is you really trying to sort of be a part of the experience and at least writing down what we're doing and letting it sort of process. One good thing about an online class or video lectures is that let's say I'm working on this whatever this video is about, and you're hearing me say, okay, so the derivative blah blah blah, and I describe whatever that means, and then I might move on and say, all right, so now I'm going to go on to the next thing, and you might say to yourself, wait a minute, I'm not ready. I still don't know where this piece came from. So of course the good thing about this is you just click back, a minute or two in the YouTube video, and you can say, oh wait, I'll hear him explain to me again one more time where this came from. So there's definitely some advantages of being able to do that. But I guess I would just say, again, my advice is to be active, right? Really try to be active while you're listening to these videos. I know they're probably not the most exciting thing on YouTube. I'm sure that's true. But you do have to, I think you'll find that you're able to process information much better if you try to pretend like, okay, I'm in class, I'm going to pay attention, I'm not going to do stuff on the side and be texting with my friends while I'm watching these videos. Like really try to sort of commit yourself to pretending at least that this is class time. Anyway, so here's the lecture videos. So, and the other thing you'll see in each group at the end are practice problems, homework problems, which maybe let me go back to the syllabus here. So these are the videos, lecture videos that you'll be watching. And I think, like I said, take notes. Okay, I said all of this already. There's also homework problems posted and with solutions for each topic so that you can practice. So these, which let me click back to Canvas for a minute here, at the bottom after all the lectures and you've watched all of these guys, the next thing I would recommend you do is click on homework problems. And what you'll see when you click, sometimes there's some handouts that I might be doing in the videos, so those might also be here too. But if you come down here, each topic has homework problems. And if you click on this is obviously just a PDF. And what you'll see are, here we go. You can always disregard the junk that's at the top in terms of due dates and stuff. This was lifted from one summer when I was teaching it, so don't worry about dates or anything on here. But just go to the problem part of these guys. So this is a homework assignment that you could print it out if you want, or you could just sort of look at it on the screen and do it on paper is fine. And these are obviously problems that I've written myself that I think are good practice for what you might be asked to do later on. So I would say after you finish the videos, try them. Again, print them out or do them on the screen, do them in your notebook if you want, whatever you want to do. So try them. The homework problems that are posted here are really practice problems. And so, of course, there's also solutions to those posted. So if you click on that, you'll see, of course, that I've done the same problems as well. And obviously, hopefully, I've done them correctly. So that you can check your answers. And, of course, if you have some issues, you can try to hopefully compare and figure out where you might have gone wrong compared to what I did. So that's certainly an important thing. So don't skip that. I would say for sure do those, almost really as soon as you're finished with these. I would recommend trying these and seeing how you do. That's sort of a good first look at how well you might have understood the material. Those are obviously not for credit because obviously I have the solutions posted, so obviously you're not getting credit for problems that I've already done. But let me go back. Sorry, let me go back to Canvas here. So you'll see those. Those are under video lectures and homework problems. One more thing, and when we expanded this to a 4-credit course, is we added recitation exercises. So if you click on this, recitation, which you should see in most of the weeks, I think there's one week where I sort of doubled it up. I think it's this week that I lumped them all together down here. But for most of the topics, you'll see recitation, recitation, recitation. And what these are, if you click on any one of them, are additional practice problems. Now, these I would typically be doing in group work in class, which obviously we can't really do in this format. So, but these are good additional practice problems, and it's sort of the same idea that there's practice, there's questions here, and then solutions to those questions here. So my advice, and part of the whole why is it taking you, as many hours as it is in a week to complete the course, is that there's an awful lot of practice that's here for you, and it's really obviously for your benefit to do all the practice that you'll see, and it's sort of risk-free because the solutions are posted, so you can check them out and you can check your answers and see how you did. Now, what are you getting graded on with every assignment is that or with every week is that there's a quiz. So if you've taken if you're familiar with Canvas, perhaps you've taken Canvas quizzes before, but you can see each topic has a quiz. So I'll just click on one of them. And a quiz, you have, I think it's either 60 minutes or 90 minutes for most of them, which is probably plenty of time. I don't think you generally need a whole lot of time to do these. What these will do, if you click on, I won't click on it, mine says preview, yours says start quiz, is that you'll get some problems that are popping up. There'll be a little timer over here that however long it says you have for it is how long the timer will let you take it. And you'll see problems, and they'll be similar to, hopefully you feel they'll be similar to problems that we did either in the lectures or in the homework problems or in the recitation problems. And these are ones that you should then obviously try to complete. And these are the things that you're actually going to get credit for. So even though you might do 20 to 30 practice problems between the homework and the recitation, the quizzes aren't that long. The idea is that if you were understanding everything from the lecture videos and from the practice and the recitation problems, that the questions you see on the quizzes should hopefully be doable and shouldn't be things that are throwing you way off. That's the idea, at least. So I know that isn't always the case, that sometimes you do practice and you think you're doing great, and then you go to take something that actually counts and it doesn't go so well. But that's at least the idea here. This is the only thing, the quizzes that you see here on Canvas are the only things that you're getting credit for, aside from the exams, which I'll talk about in a minute. So anyway, so in any typical week, watch the videos, do the homework problems that are right below them, check your answers, do the recitation problems, check your answers, and then after all of that's done, click down here for the quiz, and hopefully do well. I mean, in terms of what you should do, I mean, I don't know that you're really going to study exactly for the quiz. You might sort of organize your notes, I guess, or something like that. You can obviously use your notes for the quiz and for the exam. But you might organize and get your ideas straight. I think that when you're taking the quiz or when you're taking the exams, I mean, unless you're really, really good, I'd be doing them on paper, and then just, for the quizzes, you're going to type in your answers here into Canvas. But I would do them all out by hand and then just type in, whatever you get for the answer. A lot of the questions in the quizzes are multiple choice, and the reason just being that it's easier for me to have typed out a bunch of possible answers and then you pick the right one. But sometimes there's a place where you're going to enter an answer. So anyway, so those are the sort of regular weekly things. Let me see what else. Maybe just one last thing about homework and all this stuff. The other thing I would say is that when you're doing the practice, it's certainly reasonable to have maybe some of the examples from class that are in your notes, hopefully, have them open and try to sort of mimic and things like that. That's certainly pretty reasonable. One thing I would just say, though, that's probably a really bad thing to do that in a lot of math classes people have a tendency to do, especially in this class, since the solutions are posted for a lot of things. The worst thing you can do is, watch the videos or, scrolling through the videos, would be bad too. But even if you faithfully watch the videos and you get to the homework or to the recitation, and you decide a better thing to do would be to click on the solutions and just sort of look through what I did in the solutions. This is the worst thing you can do, and no matter how many times I say this is the worst thing that you can do, people do it. And I can only assume that it's because it'll only take you 10 minutes probably to go through the problems that I've already worked out and to sort of somehow confirm to yourself, oh yeah, I understand what he's doing. I mean, again, unless you've already taken calculus and know this pretty well, you probably don't. And the only way you're going to really understand whether you know what you're doing is to faithfully try the problems on your own without looking at the solution. So I put that out there as a really strong advice. I say this in my in-person courses too. The solutions are there so that you can check, but they're not there for you to be like, okay, let me just run through these and that'll be just as good as doing them on my own. Because I promise you on the exams, I'm not going to give you solutions and just ask you to sort of put checks next to my work and say, oh yeah, you did a great job. Here, please give me an A now. Okay, so that was my last bit about that. So with that in mind, what's left is to talk about the exams. But before that, so your grade in the course, we'll be having these quizzes. There are 6 of them, I believe. So in total, that's 20% of your grade. And then we'll have a midterm and a final exam, and each of those is 40% or 2/5 of your grade. So obviously 80% of your grade comes from the midterm and the final, which is where it's going to matter the most that you hopefully are able to do this. Again, there's a lot of stuff leading up to this. You'll have done lots and lots and lots and lots of practice so that hopefully when you get to the midterm, when you get to those 2 big exams, you're, not feeling like, okay, well, I have no idea. I have no idea what I'm doing. You should, I mean, or at least you should be aware of the fact that you have no idea what you're doing, if that's the case, but hopefully it won't be. So the exams themselves, there's a midterm and a final. The midterm is on the first 3 units, or I think it's actually, I'm sorry, it's the first 4 units, so the midterm is here in week 5, and it's on everything from the first 4 units. There isn't really much, well, I mean, the first unit is a review, so... anyway, so the midterms on that stuff, and then the final, as you scroll all the way down to the bottom, the final, and when you click on this for information about the final, it'll say something like it's stressing the material since the midterm, which is these 2 units, but there will be certainly elements from the first half as well in the final exam as well. So, so we'll have those 2 pieces. They are obviously open notes because I can't really stop you from using your notes. But no other sources, of course. The exams are timed, much like the quizzes. The exams are timed. Now, obviously, you have longer to do them. I don't recall off the top of my head. I think the midterm you maybe have 2.5 hours, whereas the final you have 3 or something like that. It'll say it in there when you click on it. So you do have to be mindful of time. However, you aren't going to take them in Canvas exactly. In other words, you're not going to be typing in answers to Canvas, and they're not multiple choice like some of the quizzes are. Instead, for the exams, you're going to click on it. I'll show you what I mean here in Canvas. So let's say the final exam. So for each of the exams, I would obviously recommend you click on the informational piece first, which just gives you some basic information about the exam, what it's covering. There's some review problems with some solutions here as well, and some general advice. You have 3 hours and when it's due and all that good stuff. But then the next link in each of these is where you'll click to actually get the exam. So the midterm's the same way. So if you click on this, you'll see, again, just some sort of introductory information, I guess, probably a lot of the same stuff that was on the other one. But then when you come down here to say start the quiz, yours says start quiz, mine just says preview. When you click on that, I can click on this one. You won't get much. You'll get, there's only one question, and it'll say here's the exam file. Obviously I don't have it posted just yet, but this will just be a PDF that will appear right here. So really all you have to do when you're going to take these exams is there will be a file right here. So click on it, it'll be a PDF. You can open it up, and it even says here, you can print out you can print it out if you want, or you could just do it on blank paper if you don't want to actually print it out. You could look at it on the screen, it's fine. And you're going to complete this on paper. And that same thing for the midterm. You're going to complete it just purely on paper, like any other math exam that you've probably ever taken. And then what are you going to do with that paper is you're going to upload it, you're going to scan it and upload it to the third link in each of these. So for both the final and the midterm, there's a third link that says upload solutions here. So all you're going to do is you're going to grab the exam file from here, and then you're going to print it out or just look at it on the screen. You're going to do the entire exam on paper and maybe have, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 pages of papers. And then you're going to either scan, if you have a scanner, that'd be great because you can probably get the best quality scan from that, or maybe have an app that scans on your phone, or if you don't, if the best you have is just a cell phone that takes pictures of each page, that's fine. Grab scans or pictures of each page, and then just upload them here. So hopefully you're familiar with Canvas, that when you click on this, there'll be an uploader that you can attach, upload files. And if you've got however many pages, just upload them all right there. And that's it. So that's how you're going to submit this. If Canvas fails you or you're having issues with this, you can also attach them and just email them to me. But I would much rather you upload them here in Canvas, just because it's easier for me to grab them all at once then. So the exams are going to be a little different than the quizzes. The quizzes, when you do these weekly quizzes, you're going to do them right here in Canvas. I mean, you should probably do them on paper, but then you're going to sort of transfer your answers, so to speak, into Canvas, so you don't have anything to worry about. But for the midterm and final, you're going to do a regular paper and pencil exam that you're going to print, and then you're going to upload everything you've done to the links that you see here. Okay? So, so those are the exams, or the bit about the exams. I probably said most of a lot of the rest of this already. So the homework and the recitation, blah, 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 I mentioned all that. And the quizzes, I mentioned those as well. If you do get extended time for testing, please just have the student support office send me the documentation for extended time, and I can add it pretty easily into Canvas if that applies to you. So I think that's the end of the syllabus. Let me just make sure there's nothing else I wanted to say over here back in Canvas. Let's see. I think that's pretty much everything. Like I said, sometimes the only other thing you see in some of the weeks are documents or PDFs, and these are documents or things that I'm referring to in the lecture videos. So you know, in some cases you don't really need to even worry about it. I just sort of post it there in case you're like, oh, it'd be great if I had a copy of that paper that he does in this video. Oh, okay, well, it's right there. So you might see some of that kind of stuff. Oh, yeah, sorry. Last most important thing, due dates for everything. So again, if you've used Canvas before, you know Canvas is pretty good about telling you due dates for things. But if you notice here in each module, there's every one of these has one thing that's due, either a quiz or an exam. And the dates are right here. Of course, if you use the calendar, and over here it sort of tries to remind you of when things are due. But if you notice, I'll just quickly scroll through these. The first quiz, which is sort of on all of this stuff, is due on July 12th, which I think is a Friday, I think? Yeah. So you can do it anytime before July 12th. You don't have to wait till July 12th. You can do it whenever, right? Whenever you want. As long as it's submitted by July 12th, that's fine. So that's Friday the 12th. The next one is due Friday the 19th. And the next one is due Friday the 26th. So I think for the first three, oh, and maybe one more. I think that maybe is also a Friday, the second. So so you have a week, a week each for each of these. Now from there, the midterm then, so this is the last assignment before the midterm. The midterm straddles a weekend. I thought was the best thing to do for everybody. So I think this is a Friday and this is a Monday. So that weekend is probably when you want to do the midterm. Now, again, I'll say this over and over again. You can do things early. You don't have to wait until August 2nd to submit this quiz, and you don't have to wait until August 5th to do this exam. I mean, I've had people take online classes and finish the entire course in a week or two. I think that'd be pretty hard to do, and you'd be doing nothing but working on it. But there's no you don't have to wait. You can do things whenever. So, but these due dates that are here, as I was mentioning, you have to complete them by then, by those due dates. So the midterm, for example, you have to have completed it and uploaded it here by August 5th. I think at 11 p.m. Eastern time is the time that all of these say, but maybe just double check when you click on any of these. So that's Monday the 5th for the midterm is the absolute latest that you can submit it. And then in the second half of the semester, there are only 2 units, but I did space them out a little bit more because these are much harder. So the second half of the course, I think, anyway, is harder than the first half because the second half of the course are all word problems for the most part. And so the other thing, though, that I was able to do is give you a little more time to work on the second half stuff. So this midterm is due on Monday the 5th, but then the next unit isn't, the quiz on that isn't due until Wednesday the 14th. So you have, I guess, what is that, 9 days. And then I was able to do 9 more days. So August 23rd, which I think is a Friday, is for the last chunk of the last topic here, is August 23rd, which I think is a Friday. And then similar to the midterm for the final, I said, well, take the weekend. So this is a Friday. And I think I did Tuesday just in case people had Monday things. So Tuesday, I believe that's a Tuesday. The 27th is the end, right? Or is the latest that you can submit the final exam. So the course will be over after August 27th. That gives me a day. I have to have grades in by that week, the end of that week. So that gives me a day or two to grade your exams and compute your course grades and all that good stuff. So so just be mindful of the due dates. Again, if you're familiar with Canvas, you know that it likes to remind you of when things are due, so that's good. But in case you forget or in case you're trying to plan ahead, the dates are all spelled out and posted here on Canvas, so you can look at them. And while I'm mentioning the whole planning ahead thing, I'll just mention a couple other last bits here then about timing. Since everything is posted and laid out, hopefully pretty clearly in terms of due dates and all that other good stuff, I will say that there are no extensions on anything for any reason. So you do need to be mindful of your time. Usually, obviously, it's summer, so you may have travel, vacation plans and whatnots in here, and that's great. Obviously, you can probably take your laptop with you and do work while you're on vacation, and that's probably all right. If you don't want to do that to yourself, I totally understand. So your course of action then is to do all of the work you need to have done ahead of time before you leave on vacation. So I promise that if you tell me, quiz number 3 is due July 26th, and it's July 25th, and you're in some exotic location, and can I do it when I get back next week? I promise you the answer is going to be no. You have to complete it by the due dates for the whole course. So if you know that you have plans, travel plans, please, please, please plan ahead and just make sure you do everything that you need to have done before you leave for whatever travel you have. And the same goes for even just sort of regular last minute kinds of emergencies. Again, something that's due on July 19th, if you send me an email July 19th at 5 p.m. and say, oh gosh, I just realized I have something come up or my internet is out or things like that, you do have to plan ahead. So waiting until the last minute is at your own, do so at your own risk. Like I said, there are no extensions, and I believe Canvas will lock you out of doing doing these things late. I don't know if that's definitely true or not, but please do make sure everything due on time. You get just sort of nailed if you miss a week, and unless you've planned ahead for it, being sort of late over and over again is really only going to make for a miserable ending. So it's really in your best interest to and I think I laid things out in the best way possible so that you have enough time to sort of breathe and work with this stuff. So so just be mindful of the dates, sort of maybe look at all of them now before you get started with the course, and maybe write them down in your calendar or whatever you use to stay organized, and just make sure you're kind of really mindful of all of that stuff. If you do have questions, if you have questions about homework problems recitation problems. Even though there are solutions posted, sometimes that doesn't quite do the trick, of course. If you have questions or you're working on a problem and aren't sure, how I got from A to B or whatever, you're welcome to email me. I often recommend that if you're kind of working on something and you've got, sort of paperwork, you've worked on a problem and you've done, 10 lines of whatever, and it doesn't match what I've done, or stuff like that. If you've got something that you're looking at to help me see what you're doing, take a picture of it and send it with the email. So say, oh gosh, I'm trying this problem that you did, and here's what I did, and I can't seem to figure out how you got blah blah blah. If I can see what you've done, it probably helps me give you a little more advice about, oh, I see where you went wrong. Whatever, algebra mistake or whatever it might be. So feel free to reach out and contact me if you have questions. And that's about it in terms of advice. If you and there's no textbook, right? Oh, I'm sorry, I probably breezed right over that. So there's nothing for you to buy, which is kind of good, I hope. So you're ready to go. So as soon as you finish watching this video, I would say click here for week 1 lecture videos. The first week, I say it here, I think at the top. These are pre-calc reviews. I think there's 3 videos. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. So there's 3 videos here. If you are hopefully familiar, I mean, none of this should be new. If you're finding that a lot of it is, then you might really be in for a little bit of a rough time. But this is all stuff that most of you did in algebra class, which I realize for some of you might have been many years ago. So do look through it. This is by no means a comprehensive reminder of everything from trig. This last video is trigonometry. I mean, by no means is this everything you needed to have remembered, but hopefully if there's some things that you saw and are like, oh yeah, I never knew what such and such was, it might at least a little bit remind you that you need to do some Googling. I don't have a specific sort of Google or website or YouTube video that I recommend, but again, I think there's an awful lot of free stuff out there that's really, really good at explaining holes in your background. So if you're having issues with any of those sorts of things, do take the time. But watch these videos. I think each of them is probably about an hour long, and this is at least what I thought was maybe useful in the first. What I usually do in the first week of the semester, just to sort of remind you of the basics. So try those. There's homework problems, as always, down here at the bottom for you to try with some solutions. I think there's recitation stuff. Yeah, so there's more practice here. And then when you're ready and feel like you've done all of that and or feel good about it, then try the quiz. And like I said, it's due on July 12th, which I think is a Friday. And then keep going, right? You don't, like I said, I don't necessarily have to wait. Just because this says week 2 doesn't mean you have to actually wait till week 2. If you finish this stuff early, start into this stuff, and so on and so forth. So, so good luck, and I'll be in touch periodically, although not a whole lot. So if you do have questions, feel free to send me an email or send me a Canvas message, and good luck.